Hi, welcome to Similar But Different, the podcast. Let's do that again. Okay. But I'm getting all the benefits.
Without having to pay.
Right.
Yeah, they screwed me. And then I found a bunch of friends that I was different from. I think I'd like the gram more if I got hit up in my DMs.
Okay, this should probably end. Welcome to Similar But Different. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Rach.
Look at you, not wearing all black today.
I know, I'm really proud of myself.
Oh, you took off your glasses.
Yeah, those were just like my, while I'm working glasses, and I forget they're on sometimes.
Yeah, well.
Blue light,
I like them. Yeah.
I guess I could have worn them and glassed up with you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I forgive you. Well.
Memorial weekend just happened.
It did.
Did you have a good weekend?
It was okay.
Yeah.
Well, you already know this, but late last week, my husband's mom passed away. So we've kind of been dealing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough stuff.
He's doing all right?
It's doing as good as you could
expect.
be doing. Like, it feels so stupid when I'm like, how are you doing? And he's like, I'm sad. Like, but he'll be like, I'm here. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of his, just like, I'm being like, obviously he's physically present, but like trying to be emotionally present, but obviously struggling. But he actually recommended that we talk about death and dying on the podcast. Because I was like, this is kind of like some personal stuff. It's not normally something I'd be like, yeah, let's gab about this sad passing on the podcast. But he was like, no, it's interesting stuff. And I know you've brought up to me, I don't know, once we were like sitting at a bar having dinner and you were like, so when you died, you just think you're getting eaten up by bugs, or I don't know.
Yeah,
you said it in like the darkest way, and I was like, cool.
Just, it was one of I feel like I think about this occasionally, like about how what you want to happen.
Yeah.
Mostly just because so all my grandparents have passed. And so I think about like every single one of them chose a different path.
Oh, really?
Actually,
all four?
Maybe they all got cremated, but I feel like half. No, I can't remember. I think they all got cremated. It's been a while, but that made me think like, so in my mind, I'm like, yeah, 100% get cremated, because if you get buried, oh no, my grandfather I don't remember. Everything rots.
Yeah.
Like if you think about shit over time, how does that preserve? And are you just like getting eaten?
Well, okay. I feel like I know actually. No, I don't know anything. I recently finished listening to a podcast called The One Sure Thing, and it's all about death and dying.
Oh, shit.
And it's because the host of it, her mom died from cancer when she was in college, and then her dad died of a heart attack like a year later. And so she's just always kind of been like obsessed with understanding death and dying and how it impacts people, and like mediums and signs from the beyond, and what happens when you die. And she grew up in a Catholic household, but she's not religious now, and like does all these interviews with like people who work at funeral homes, like embalmers and cremators, and then she talks with mediums and like doulas and like death doulas and stuff, or people who work in hospice.
Death doulas? I don't even know what that is.
So, if I haven't said it, the podcast is called The One Sure Thing, and I do highly recommend it. It's not like sad and depressing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. But
is it like one person's like, so she's been through a lot of death, obviously. Is it like how she has chosen to cope with that?
No, it's just her just like talking to people in these different professions and getting their take on like what they believe happens when you die.
Ooh.
I think she was hoping out of it she would feel some sort of peace of like, this is what happens when you pass or something. And she's like, I didn't, but I got some other sort of peace, because everyone just has like a different experience and story. But a death doula is someone that I think I may be saying this wrong, but my best understanding is that like they are there to help the family with
Through
the passing of the loved one.
shit,
So it's like, I think they're probably involved before the person passes.
if they can be.
Yeah.
Like in that scenario, it would be if you know in advance and it's not a sudden thing.
Yeah. And because a lot of times death can create a lot of like family complications and fallout and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, almost having like a death therapist.
Yeah.
You know, like just kind of helping you all process that emotionally. And
Which is good because I feel like having someone like that, well, like you just mentioned, going through that and then you think about like who's left.
yeah,
Siblings like no longer talk to each other sometimes after that.
right.
It's like that causes so much like, I don't know if it's how, and I'm assuming it's how they're dealing with the passing, right? Some people deal with it in terms of like maybe they lash out at their sibling and saying like, no, you can't have that. I want all of that.
Yeah. Or like just how like people wrote their wills and how they split things, and then it creates this like,
oh man, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know my family's dealt with stuff there. I know other families like have dealt with stuff there, because when I've like shared my experience, other people are like, oh yeah, XYZ, this has happened. And I know my parents are so like, because I have two siblings, and they're like, we just want everything to be so equal, and everyone like knows their responsibility like ahead of time, like who is the what's it called,
Executor?
like the executor of the will, who's like the medical proxy,
Oh,
if like a decision needs to be made, um how they like want their remains handled and all that stuff. Which I appreciate. Though it was weird when I got an email being like the passing of George and Kathy, and I was like, what? And it was like just lawyer things and things like that. But
Penny heard us talking.
Prepared. I feel like people don't talk about this stuff because like they're like, oh, it's sad and weird, and I'm like, no, talk about it.
Yeah, no,
if you have specific wishes,
you should talk about it. I think if it's well, I think just like anything we've talked about, talking about it helps like demystify it in terms of people thinking that they're the only ones going through something.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, I think so important in general across the board. You shouldn't feel like you are unique. Well, that sounds weird, but like you don't want to think you're unique about something that makes you feel negative.
Right.
And so the more you talk about it, the more it's, I say demystify. I don't know if that's actually the right term, but
yeah. I think like over this past week, Skylar's kind of been in a like, I'm sorry, I've been kind of like off and just in a weird headspace and XYZ. I'm like, you don't have to apologize for anything. Like, as long as you don't do anything to like harm yourself or others, however you are handling your grief is normal and fine.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And like everyone handles things differently.
Very differently.
Like I know sometimes when people pass and people will say, oh, I didn't cry, is that weird? Or I can't stop crying, is that weird? And I'm like, both normal.
Both normal. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so like, because we were talking about wills earlier, and it's like, what happens when you don't know that's coming and you don't prepare for it? Because it is, I mean, it's easy to say like, I say easy.
Yeah.
Both our parents are older. And so they've, well, it sounds like your parents have, I know my parents have, they've planned for it, and they have a plan so that it doesn't get all left on you. But can you imagine losing someone far too soon?
Yeah.
Unexpected. And not having a, like, well, what did they want? We never talked about if they wanted to be cremated or not. Like, we never talked about, do they want a service? Do they want, like, if you never have those conversations, like, what do? I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to make those decisions.
And maybe this is controversial, but I'm kind of like, if they didn't have a plan or share their wishes, then you do what's best for you. If you were in charge of, like, organizing everything, like, and if it would make you feel good to have a service, you have one. If it wouldn't, you don't. Like, whatever is going to make you feel at peace. Like, hopefully this loved one also just wants that for you too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, if I die unexpectedly, I just want whatever other people, like, I don't want to stress people out.
Yeah. Yeah. Which people I think would know that though.
Yeah.
Without us even doing
like understand a personality. Like I'm sure there's some people that are like, no, I know that they want to be like go out in style, like big
Go out and
service party thing, etc. And I'm just like, I don't want you to spend a lot of money on me. Like, if people want to get together and share their favorite Rachel stories, go for it.
Ooh, love
but
that.
I don't have like strong, like, I want this song played. I want to be like, and maybe if I get older,
you might change.
But I'm also like, I'm gone.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And I just want my loved ones to be okay.
Yeah.
And I do think it's nice, like, it's always sometimes weird, like funerals or like wakes and things that I've been to in the last few years where like you get to see so many people you haven't seen in a long time. And it's always like, oh, I'm sad this is how we're getting to see each other. But also like, I would want that. Like, I don't want you to like feel bad that you're laughing and having a good time at my expense.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I never thought about that. I hated both my grandparents' funerals. I think on both sides. I liked that I got to see my family in Carolina. So like we don't get to see each other often. So that was nice to be able to see them, even though the circumstances were shit. That whole that was just awful to deal with, and you know, all of that. But like, I did not like my mom's grandmother's funeral, my mom's funeral. So my grandmother on that side, just because there were so many people I didn't know. And I think I've told you this story. There was someone at the funeral, who was talking to my mom, and literally at the funeral, my grandmother, none of my cousins or siblings have had kids yet at this time. And literally that lady says to my mom, with me standing right next to her, I know how much she really wanted great grandbabies. And I was like, and just completely lost it. And then didn't want to be losing it on my own. So I immediately ran over to my cousin and told her so that she could cry with me. Instead of, because that's how I am. I'm like, if I'm in pain, you're going to be in pain. Sorry, Court. But yeah, that like things like that, I feel like get said when you're not comfortable with the people that you're seeing at a funeral, like the reunion version.
People don't know what to say.
Yeah, no one knows what to say. And that's okay. Don't say anything.
I like to say like, there's no wrong thing to say, but it's like there is. If you don't know all you have to say is, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Let me know how I can be there for you.
Yeah.
And support you through this time.
So my mom's dad passed when she was like in high school. So I never met him, but her mom passed when I was in like middle school. And I remember we were like at some event, and I guess this woman hadn't seen my mom since the passing of her mom. And I didn't know what to say and was like, oh, so I guess you're an orphan now.
What?
And my mom's like in her 50s, probably, like, what? Yeah, I guess.
There are no stupid questions. No, there are stupid questions, and there are stupid things to say to people. But like,
my mom's like, I'm not like, just what?
Like, I feel like though I say that, but like I get it. Like, I don't think I would get. Well, I just got irritated with all over again with the lady that said that at my grandmother's funeral. But like, I don't blame them, and I'm not angry with them.
Yeah.
For not knowing the perfect thing to say.
But just like,
be better.
You have to think like, what is that doing? Especially that comment that was said to you, because yes, I do remember you telling me that. It's like, well, we don't have them. Yeah, like there's literally nothing I could do.
Nothing. It's awful. This is like literally the worst thing you could say. 100%. Yeah. Like, clearly I'm not over it. My grandmother passed away in like 2016 or something.
Yeah.
And no, never. I'm never gonna get over that.
At a funeral for a friend of mine's dad, he served in the military, and so at the funeral there were like servicemen who like had the flag,
and they shoot.
Well, we were inside. This was like in a so no shooting, but they were like presenting a flag to his mom and family, and the woman who I was sitting next to, we did know her, but she like put her hand on Skylar's knee and goes, "Now that's theater." What? And we're like,
She came to
this
a play.
is-
There's a show
This is
for her.
real. I mean, and I want to assume her intent
Theater.
was like, wow, what a moving, because it is very moving to like see that with the flag and the presenting and stuff. But I'm like, it's not theater.
It's not
We
theater.
are honoring this man's life and his service to our country. And that was inappropriate.
Yeah, no, it's not theater. It's okay to be moving, like, oh, that was, just say that.
Yeah. Just take a deep breath.
Man.
But I will say, it did really lighten up stuff afterwards when we're like, you guys,
this was theater.
to what happened to us during this.
Yeah.
And we joke about it to this day.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Love that.
But okay. So you said all your grandparents, they had very specific different wishes for how they wanted to be handled in death.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it more, my dad's parents were both cremated, and I think my mom's parents were both buried.
Okay.
Yeah, in a cemetery, it's one of those things too, like curious for if you have family members at cemeteries that are close by.
Mm-hmm.
I know my aunt visits the cemetery where they're buried, and that's something that I think I think it's unique to people. So like for me, that's not where I want to go to like speak with my grandparents or be with my grandparents. I don't really feel a presence in those ceremonies. Those places. It's just not, that's me personally, but I know that that's different for everybody. Some people are like, no, I go to the cemetery every day to visit my loved one who passed or something like that. And I think that can be very different because I'm like that. There's no one there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So all of my grandparents have passed and they all have headstones. I know my grandma was cremated, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, because she had already had the plot, but she wanted to be cremated, and maybe similar to she didn't like the idea of like decomposing over time. So she was just like, her ashes were buried in her plot. But it's like an hour and a half away, and I wonder, like I think about my grandma a lot, but I don't feel like moved in order to feel close to her to like go to the cemetery. But in times where I've been either like with one of my parents when we have done that, I'm like, oh, it is kind of nice to feel like you can go somewhere. But I've also never had that desire because I'm just like, no, I can think about you.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can also get maybe how having the like, oh, well, this is the place. Like I save that energy when I go here. Yeah.
I feel closest, especially to my grandmother or my mom's mom, when I like look through her recipe book and like maybe try making a recipe. It's never as good.
Yeah.
But like that's when I'm like, I feel like that's my closest moment to my grandmother is, and that's, I mean, I did the cookies, my grandmother's cookies for the wedding because like that is 100% what I think about and what I always want to remember about my grandmother.
Yeah.
And that's, that brings you closer.
Right. Okay. I want to talk more about being eaten and
being eaten alive. Well, dead.
All right. One, I'm kind of like, I don't care if bugs and things were to eat away at me and I was to decompose because I'm not here anymore.
Dead. Yeah.
I am open to my body being dedicated to science.
I'm into that.
Even though it's so weird, I have this thought of like, oh, are they gonna look at my naked body and be like, what's going on there?
What do you
No. I don't know. You know how like I know they wouldn't because like they're med students, but like think of like your own insecurities.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just like,
you're dead, Rachel.
I know. It's like a weird thing to think about. Like while you're dead, and I'm just like, wow, her left boob is so much larger than her right boob, or something like that. And you're like, hey, I'm turning my body to science and help you. Do not comment on my body. But hopefully, at least when that comes, I'll be much, much older. And as a society, we will have progressed so much that we don't need to comment on people's bodies. But also, I won't care because I'm dead. That's my whole point.
Okay.
But I just thought I would go on that
little rant.
I just think it's like if you just see a dead naked body, like if you just see naked bodies in general, you're like, oh, that looks different than mine.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Yeah, that's just people's thoughts. It doesn't have to.
And then it's
a negative thing.
I'm not saying it like I
like
sit with it
breathed.
and it bothers me. It's just like it's interesting to think about, to be just like a corpse on a table and someone's like, whoa, that's a weird birthmark. Okay,
let's get her open. Yeah. I like that you mentioned that, because I feel like no matter how I die, if it can help like science, if like them looking at that and harvesting all of my organs can help someone else, 100% I want that to happen.
Right. Okay.
Like, 100%.
So you don't want to be food for thugs.
Yeah.
But you are willing to have like your body picked apart in pieces to give to others.
Yeah, because like the one's a waste. Well, I guess I say
not
that.
A waste.
It's not a waste. Yeah, that's fair, because they're eating me. I don't know. I feel like when I talked about the like being eaten or being burned, I was like,
oh, right, cremation.
Yeah,
okay,
cremation.
I was
like you're basically like, both scenarios kind of suck if you think about it. Burning's just quicker, but you're dead either way. I get that. You're dead either way. I'm just, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, burning is just one thing. I'm done. It's gone. Slowly rotting, I feel like sounds worse to me. Like I think about too, you can't bury everyone in the ground, because then where will people live? The ground runs out of space.
I thought about that, because it is like, okay, well, like we have more people and we can't build over these cemeteries. And then also there's, I mean, awful stories about burial grounds
and then getting dug up by accident,
or not, or just like no one cared, and then you like discover these like burial grounds of the Native Americans in Canada, and they're like, oh, sorry, we just mass nice. And Jesus Christ. But
really took you off your game there.
Now, if I was not in a coffin and I would just like decompose into the earth, that's providing
nutrients. Is that atheism? Where they believe that your body becomes one with this earth and then you grow into a big, tall, beautiful tree?
I don't know. But I do know that in some states, it's becoming legal for you to like get your body composted, and that's so people can like use your body as like fertilizer and mulch or whatever for their garden. And
that's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool, but then it's also like you're eating your little tomato, and then it's like, that's Jen.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do a fruit or a vegetable out of. Yeah, I would just do flowers or like a tree.
Yeah,
that would like
you
live
can
a long
turn
time.
Into a tree. That's a whole separate thing.
I like that.
Like I think this whole like composting thing is like to be used in your garden.
Oof. Yeah, no, I don't know if I'm into that.
But in terms of like growing some type of foliage, fine. But in terms of like eating produce, I mean, it is kind of cool to be like, oh right, grandma grew these cucumbers.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're dead. Like really, like that's definitely my thought process. I don't want to become a burden and I'm not saying that being buried in the ground makes you a burden. It's just in my mind, I'm like, where will that happen? Like, where do you go? I mean, I think it's New Orleans where they build up. So their cemeteries are like up and like stacked.
Parking garages?
Yeah, because and it's a cemetery, but like, yeah, it's like.
Interesting.
Because they don't have anywhere in the ground. And I think because of the sea level, I don't know all the details. But I think that, because they have a really cool cemetery in New Orleans.
Oh. It's
also in some stupid shows I watch, but. Nolans.
Yeah, I've never been. That's interesting.
Yeah. I guess that's part of like what my brain goes to. But then again, I mentioned atheism earlier just because like I feel like whatever you believe happens to yourself after you die I think it's more of a comfort thing, because personally, you did.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, real quick, do you have a strong preference on like you want to be cremated? Do you want to be turned into a tree? Or you're just like, mine personally is whatever is most cost effective and least harming to the environment at the time.
I like that.
I think good for.
Mine is if you can get value from science of taking out my organs and donating my body and doing anything like that, I would want that first, and then whatever's good, you can just do whatever you want with that.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy.
Right. Throw you in a dumpster.
Throw me in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Might be a little weird whoever finds me, but yeah.
Well, we'll cremate you first.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sprinkle the ashes in the river.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna do it in the dumpster, but
Well,
sure.
you know, now I have a preference.
Skylar has joked there's like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia bit of some character just being like, yeah, just throw me in the dumpster. And I've like had conversation with Skylar. I'm like, hey,
so I'm not
high
gonna do
level.
that.
What do you want? Just so I can be prepared. And he's like, just throw me in a dumpster. I'm like, haha. But seriously,
but really,
I'm not doing that. So
it's fun to joke though.
Yeah.
You should joke right now because hopefully that does not have to happen soon.
Yeah, it won't.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of afterlife stuff.
Yeah, the afterlife.
What do you think?
I don't know. I've thought about this recently, kind of actually. I feel like I asked Nathan about this recently. I was like, so do you think in a perfect scenario, right? You don't have any pain. You just go to sleep. So my grandfather did this. He went to sleep on his chair and he just didn't wake up again. In my mind, what I like to believe happened is he went to sleep in his chair and his soul and who he is as a person woke up in a baby. And it was now starting life all over again. You don't remember any of your life beforehand.
So reincarnation.
But yeah, I like to think that because I think that would be so cool to like, not that I can remember what my previous lives have been, but I love that concept of like, you know.
I mean, there are stories
I've heard
of that. I
think it's interesting.
I've had a friend be like, hey, just so you know, if I die before you, I'm going to come back and say hello. So don't be alarmed. I just want you to know. But like, we don't know the rules.
That would be so cool.
And
we don't know the rules. There are rules.
I'm just saying, because there's stuff about like, oh, people are trying to pass, but they get stuck in this realm. Is that something you believe? Or like the very like literal pearly gates versus like heaven and going to hell. And I don't believe in a heaven or hell, but I also don't have a strong stance on anything because none of us know.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't think anybody's wrong. Like me personally, I'm like, we don't know. And unless we can know, it's all a matter of what makes you comfortable. Like what makes you feel good. Like, and I'm also like really into fantasy stuff. And so I love everybody has a different way of what they say happens to you when you move on.
Yeah.
And I love that because I think that we'll never know, hopefully. Honestly, I think it's probably better we don't. And so it's whatever makes you happy. Whatever, like, I'm all for it. Like heaven or hell, if that's what keeps you going, sure. Like if that makes you feel better about what you're doing in this life so that you think that you can go to heaven and you choose to take that path, that's great. But don't tell me I'm going to hell because I've not followed the same path as you because that's different because I have a different lifestyle and I have a different viewpoint of what happens to me. So don't be telling me that.
Right. Well, that's the whole freedom of religion thing that our country claims to have, but doesn't really follow.
Claims.
But my hot take, and granted, I know this is not 100% for everyone, but I'm like, there are a lot of people who like do very strongly believe in like going to heaven or going to hell. And I feel like a lot of people who believe in hell strongly do a lot of things that would send them to hell.
Oh, I agree with that. I would agree with that.
So
at least the
I'm
people
like,
I know.
Better be more careful.
If you think that's going to happen, yeah.
Yeah.
I also like
kinder.
Have you seen the show Lucifer?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, Netflix show. I liked it, and that had like their version of what hell was. Yeah, he's obviously the devil. And it made me happy to think that that's. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah,
it's awful. But like I don't know. I thought like putting an image or like being able to visualize what some people may believe in. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I also like, there's mediums and psychics and some people are like, oh, that's horse crap, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is. But if it makes the person feel better.
Yeah, all for it.
I don't care.
It doesn't bother
me. Like if it gives them some peace. Exactly. And there are also like so many stories that you hear from people who like are hospice nurses who like in like the final kind of like weeks of life, they're like, yeah, they just start talking to someone in the room and we'll ask a family member and they're like, oh yeah, that was their partner who passed a few years ago. Like they're in this like daze and like are having a conversation with them and feel like they're like, yeah, they're saying that they're ready for me to come.
Oh, I
That's
love that.
nice. I like to believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
Freaky. So my grandma's house, she passed a few years ago, but some of my family members know the people who now live in the house. And when I was 4, her husband, my papa, died, and he died in the home. But the people who live there now didn't know that. They just knew of like my grandma Marjorie, you know.
Marjorie.
And there's oh my gosh, when that Taylor Swift song Marjorie came out, the whole family was like, oh, because she had recently passed after that song came out.
Oh my God, the timing.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But there's like a little girl who lives there. And she will be like, Dr. Cave said he's going to watch over the house for us while we're on vacation, or just walking out in the hall and be like, hi, Dr. Cave. And they're like, what? Because they didn't know who that was, but that was my papa.
The fact that she knew to call him doctor, knew he was a doctor too.
Yeah.
Like what?
And like the little girl, I think she's like 4 or 5, like she doesn't know anything about my grandma or the woman who lived in the house beforehand.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That whole like the ghost aspect to me and even the mediums and people that can like go into the afterlife or whatever and speak to people. Like I don't believe it's not true. Like I'm not of that belief. I'm of like, it could be possible. What's preventing it from not being possible? Right. I don't know. But I almost like don't like it. Like I don't even like the ghost shows on TV. Yeah. It scares the absolute shit out of me. Cause I also feel like when I was younger, the lady that lived next door to us, it was one lady, like lived by herself, an older lady. And she would be like outside and I would see someone in the window upstairs as a kid.
You don't like that?
And I didn't like it one bit. Because I also then made me think that she was spooky and she was probably a really nice lady. Yeah. But like all I thought was that she's some like, you know, scary lady with ghosts in her house or something.
Okay, well, it's not her fault the ghosts are there.
I know, but that's as a child.
Keeping a hold on the ghost.
I mean, but like your brain goes through a lot of things. As a young kid, I was like, does she have someone imprisoned in there?
Right.
Like, I don't know. And you know what it probably was? 100%. I can look back on this and understand that. She probably had like her nephew or you know, grandson
or she was into sewing and had a mannequin up there or something.
Yeah, it could literally be a ton of things that don't point to ghosts, but in my mind I saw a ghost. So
yeah.
And it scares me. I don't want to see the stuff on TV. I don't want to hear about it because it's
yeah. I very much, this will be like a whole nother episode, so probably not going too into it, like talking about like, oh, do you believe in like ghosts and Loch Ness monsters and that whole like genre of stuff.
Vampires, werewolves. We'll do that another one.
Ongoing
a fantasy world.
Into that, yeah.
Huge fan of that. Well, you know, we haven't gone to yet, which I'm like, I just like this because I feel like I've thought about this. So like, yeah, passing when you're older. Mm-hmm. I have told my parents and like how I would want to die. I don't have an actual will, but I have told my parents and I've, you know, told my husband now too, that should something happen to me.
Oh, I think you've probably told this to me as well. I think when we like first met, you're like,
everyone needs to know. Yeah. Cause so like, and this is also, I think, very like individual. People have different thoughts on this. For me personally, I've always said, if something were to happen where I can't move my legs. I think this all came up after the movie that had the guy was paralyzed, but he still had he still could think, talk, everything, but he was paralyzed from the neck down, and he wanted to end his life.
Wait, is this based on the book?
Is it a book too? Yes, it probably was a book.
For you or something?
I don't remember. Okay. The movie had Targaryen.
I read the book, but we understand the general concept of what's happening. Yeah. You're in a tragic accident, and
something like that happens. Even so, if where I'm going, because if I have my brain there, then I can have this conversation and I can make that decision. Yeah. And I would make that decision, and I know I feel confident that I would. But if my brain's not there,
you said what the decision was. That
Oh, yeah.
you would want
I would want
do
to end
a
my life.
euthanasia type thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, so initially, and this is probably all from the book. So there's a few states here that you can choose to end your life, and you have to live in those states for a certain period of time too. So I was just like, well, I want to go to Sweden because you can go to Sweden.
Thought it was Switzerland.
Is it Switzerland? It's one of
I don't
those.
know.
It's one of those wonderful countries.
Right.
And I want to go over there and, let me go. Just say goodbye.
New Jersey also has that. So if you want to,
no, I want to
go to Jersey.
I want to see the Alps.
Yeah.
The beautiful snow-capped mountains. So that's I'm very adamant about that. I don't, and a lot of it is not solely like me. It's I 100% know no matter what, I would be a burden to those that love me. And I don't want that. I want them to know that I was happy.
Yeah.
I lived a great life, maybe shorter than I wanted to. Now it's your turn to just not spend the rest of your life taking care of me. You're just going to live your life.
Yeah. And I remember us talking about this a few years ago because I was like, would that still be your opinion if you had a kid?
Yeah, actually, probably more so. I would not want, especially, it would be hard to explain to a child if they are younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be difficult. I would want to make sure that the child would understand. In a perfect scenario, they're old enough to understand. In a not perfect scenario, they might be too young.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how I would handle that.
I don't want to say I'd be curious because obviously I want you to have fully functioning body parts for the entirety of your life.
Thank you.
But yeah, like if it's hard to know because I don't know the love of my own kid.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we won't know.
And not wanting to hurt for them to feel pain or sadness, and then just be like, I'm actually choosing to do this
to leave
this
you
is for me.
Yep,
but you're gonna hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not all for you, right? Because even as a child with a parent that way, in my opinion, I know that that's plenty of kids whose parents, and they are just fine. But the way I will internalize it and the way I will think about it constantly is that I am stunting their abilities to do things. It will always be in the back of my mind that they weren't able to live as full of a life because I'm comparing it to my life.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason.
You can just become independently wealthy and have full-time care and staff.
If that's the case,
not have to rely on government assistance or anything, or your family, and you're good.
If I win the lottery, I'll stay alive forever.
Put my head in a jar. Okay, now is this still your are you fully paralyzed, or is this still your thought? Even if you're paralyzed from the waist down?
Oh no, I'm fully paralyzed.
Up? Okay, because I was like, you can,
and I would even say brain damage to where I'm not able to understand. The doctors are we don't actually know if she can understand you. I'm like,
oh,
okay.
So that too.
That's, either.
Oh, okay. I understand. Yep. Yeah. Skylar and I have talked about that. And I'm like, if they're you don't need to keep me around in case I come out of a coma. Yeah. If my quality of life is going to be garbage. Now, if they're yeah, there's a 70% chance she's going to come out and be fine. Maybe give it a little, but
see how it plays out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Till we get under 50%.
Yeah. And I think I've shared this with you. A friend of mine used to actually be a part-time caretaker for quadriplegics. And so she has a very intimate understanding of their life and needs and how hard it is, but they lived on their own.
Wow.
But it also was hard because they can't work. So, and if their only money is coming from disability, then they have part-time care workers who come in and bathe them and feed them and stuff like that. And I remember I met one of the girls that she worked for, and she was saying yeah, you if you have an itch, you just have to wait until your healthcare worker gets there.
Damn.
And it's such a small thing. I think about that now when I have an itch, if I can't immediately scratch it, and just having to think, oh, someone might have to wait for 2 hours for someone to come and do that, or and it's such these little things, but pull a wedgie or like blow your nose or
I
just like
can't
mild
even
things that
imagine
make
that.
you uncomfortable.
It sounds miserable. But also, like, that's probably another episode too. The people that take care of people in different scenarios and different situations, it's a special person. Like, it takes I don't have it. I know people that have it. And I mean, it's the same type like that. I think that's so impressive to me to even be able to take care of people that you know, like hospice care workers.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how you handle that.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally.
That's heavy stuff.
It's you just superpowers.
Yeah. I think
They do exist.
so. This friend, she's just like, she's not grossed out by anything. She like, I don't know, like no judgment, whatever. Like part of her job would be, you know, like shoving a finger up the butt to help them poop because they can't like control everything or like get stuff out. And she's like, yeah, it is what it is. But she also has a sense of humor. So she's not like, okay, we'll just be quiet and not talk about it. Like, and I kind of, that's fun. Like, if I was the person who needed someone to do that for me, I'd be like, all right, get on in there. Like,
I wanted to make it lighthearted. I know you got to stick your finger in my butt, so.
Right. Yeah.
Now that's all I think of is thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fingers up butts.
Anytime.
A good moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else can we go with this? Because I feel like death, man. What a good topic. Skylar coming through. I feel like he always has good topic suggestions.
He does. He has sent us a lot. And I appreciate that he was like, yeah, no, I think you should talk about it.
Probably would have been more hesitant just because of how recent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't, you know, it's just like personal and like his relationships and how he's handling it and how we're handling it and stuff like that. But it also, like, I love the name of the podcast I talked about, that it's called The One Sure Thing, because it is just like, it happens to everyone.
Everyone.
And to your point of like, it should be able to be talked about. And so people don't feel weird bringing it up. And I say that, but like, I still, you know, feel uncomfortable sometimes, especially when I've like known people who have lost loved ones like very tragically or very sudden, and people are like, I don't know what to say or things like that. But with Skylar's mom, I've heard some people say some things, but we're like, huh, interesting choice. But we kind of just, he'll show me and we'll laugh about it. But then it's also like people come out of the woodworks to just like, share a funny story they have about your
Which is
person,
nice.
and
that's
I like awesome.
That. Yeah, I feel like when I was younger, I mean, I'm constantly changing and improving. But when I was younger, I was almost, I don't want to say like numb, but in a sense, I felt numb. Like everyone was crying. Like I think it was my basketball coach when we were younger, my friend's dad passed away from cancer. And it was very much a scenario where I knew what that meant, but I don't think I really understood everything. So I wasn't sad. Like, well, no, that's not right. I was sad, but like I wasn't crying, and I wasn't exactly sure like what to do with the sad feelings, because it didn't change anything, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I probably handled it very poorly. Obviously as a kid, I was like, I don't know, 6, 7. And then, but again, when I got older in high school, my grandfather passed, I was more of just like numb to the sense of like, what do I do with these feelings? Because no one tells you when you're young, like how you're supposed to handle it. Because we talked about this earlier. There's no right way to handle it. And so in my mind, because as a young kid, I think I've told you this before, it's like, you don't cry. Crying is a weakness. And so a lot of like,
I grew up healthier.
Yeah. That's fair. I
all the time.
You know, crying is weak. That's too funny. But like, I feel like as I would say things, because you know, everybody I know has passed away, but they have cancer, you know, whatever it is. And I would say things to other people that are going through what I thought was just the same thing I went through. And I was like, yeah, oh man, that sucks. I'm glad that they're, you know, better now,
Yeah.
but they're dead. And it's like, that's probably not the thing you should say. And like we were talking about this earlier, like there are definitely things that I've said to people who are like, oh, my grandfather passed away. And I was like, oh, did they live a long life? You know, how old were they?
Yeah.
And they'd say like, oh yeah, passed away at like 98. And I'd be like, well, that's great. Because like, I think the way that I always handled certain things, learning about like death and all of that, was just more of like celebrating
Yeah.
the good things. Like they lived a long, healthy life. That's great. Or, you know, fuck, cancer gets everyone.
That's what you say to people?
No, I don't know if I've said that, but like, you know, that's the type of thing that goes through my brain.
Yeah. And I think it's just so individual. Like, I know a lot of people say like, oh, well, I'm glad they're in a better place.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they're fucking not. They were
They're
great
not with me.
With me. Thank you, though.
They're fucking not. Yeah, seriously, though. It's a good point.
But some people that is comforting too, you know? Like, especially people who have been in pain for a long time saying like, oh, I'm glad they're no longer in pain. And to me, I'm like, yeah, that seems nice. Like me too. But I can see someone else being like, yeah, well, they wouldn't have been if,
well, like, so and so, such and such wouldn't
like
have
the mood
happened
that you're in at the time. And
yeah.
And one of my like childhood best friends has had a lot of like tragic loss in her life. And
tragic is,
it's just so interesting, like just seeing how different people like handle stuff. And yeah, we're just going in circles to say that, hey, Penny, no way is
the right way.
Like it's not like
there's no right or wrong way.
Oh,
I feel like
your friend died and you didn't cry. You don't care about them. Like, nope. Oh, Penny.
She's so great.
Penny just laid her.
You were talking about something sad and she wanted to console you.
Like, I need to
make you feel better. Yeah. I think the summary, and we both agree on this, is that, what is the summary? Like, there's never a right way. There's never a wrong way.
Right. But just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Don't be an asshole. There are assholes.
Grieving. There is not a right way. There's not a wrong way. But if you don't know what to say, just say
nothing at all.
Sorry for your loss.
Or that. Yeah. How can I support you during this time?
So one of Skylar's favorite bits from stand-up comedian is George Carlin. And he does this whole thing about death and dying. But one of the things he says, he's like, when someone passes, everyone's go-to is always like, if I can do anything for you, let me know. And I think people should start taking up on that offer. Just like be like, yeah, you know what?
Can you bring them back?
The back room needs painting.
Oh, shit.
Actually.
Love
and
that.
And if you could mow the yard, just like really being like, you know what? I haven't felt like doing my taxes. Oh, shit. You want to do that? Like really call people out.
See if they're actually willing to do anything.
Yeah. Obviously, he tells it much better than I do. But it's good. Really, I remember I was like, we watched that. I was like, this is going to make him feel better because it's just such a like funny, honest way.
Yeah. I will say Jesus, Penny, really getting in there.
Really burrowing.
I am very much, I will say that and truly mean it. But had you like, because I think I did say it to you.
A lot of people do. And I was like, oh, I'm going to say this. And Jen, okay, I have something in my eye. But Jen's going to feel bad because.
No, I don't feel bad. I more or less think, in my mind, I'm like thinking, had you said something like, actually, yeah, the grass needs mowing, I'd be like, we're thinking different things here. So what I'm saying.
Wait, you wouldn't come mow the yard? Because I feel like you would.
I probably would. If you, 100% actually. That's, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But like maybe with, actually, no, if I'm going to say that, I would do it. I would 100% do it. That's just the type of person I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's too funny. I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, well, you know, maybe I would say it and then be like, hey, I was talking about like, how can I support you? But in reality, if that helps you, I would do it.
Yeah. Take my car to get inspected and pay for it.
Shit. Well, that's not that much.
Yeah. Well, it depends if there's repairs.
True.
No, you got to doing that next
fairly
week.
New car.
Mine's delayed.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
shit. My inspection's late.
Mine, it was April.
We're like same, but like
Sky was in the car and he goes, you gonna take care of that? And I was like, yeah, I guess I should.
I need to.
But then we like looked it up and you can have it expired for up to 3 months before you can get pulled over for it. I get so used to seeing it there that it means nothing to me. Like I like need someone to. This is like the third time over the course of me being responsible for a vehicle that someone's been like, just so you know, that's coming up.
Yeah.
And I've been like, shit. Yeah.
I needed my dad to tell me for a long time.
Yeah.
It helps. God, dads are the best
I
for that.
know. My dad would do that. We were home visiting last weekend for a surprise retirement party for my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's going to see my car and be like, Rachel, your tags are expired. And I was like embarrassed. And I was like, don't look at it. But he didn't notice.
Yeah. Oh, dads.
Yeah.
They're the best. Well, shall we? Trivia?
Yeah. We'll trivia it up. Well, thank you all so much for listening and or watching. Please leave us a review, like our stuff, share it with your friends. Yeah, we appreciate you.
Yeah, have a great one.
Toodles.
Toodaloo.
Maybe that's your, is Sweden where they yodel?
Yodeling.
Yeah. Toodle.
You just had to get up.